Hello, and welcome to the first Composer's Voice concerts streaming live online with virtual concert halls. I'm Robert Voisey. I am the director of Composer's Voice concerts, and I created Composer's Voice to give a venue and an avenue for composers to have their works heard and played by great performers. Uh, I have the utmost pleasure of working with Stephen Porter, our pianist that we're going to be featuring on this Composer's Voice concert. I've worked with him several times on Composer's Voice concert, and with 15 Minutes of Fame, another one of our projects, of which we've did one or two or three times in the past, right, Stephen?
Hello, Robert. Yes,
Welcome, thank you. It's so
thank
great
you.
to have you.
Great to be here.
So, Stephen, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a pianist and I live in Boston and I perform all over the place and I play a lot of standard repertoire, but I also, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, have played a lot more new music by living composers and several times with your group in New York. And through that, I've met all sorts of interesting composers and playing new music and working with these living composers is one of the best things you can do. Not only is the music great, but it gives you opportunities to perform in different places. And that's what we all need to be doing.
I agree wholeheartedly. Now, this is an interesting program. What kind of you shaped it? So, like, what was your thoughts and strategies behind it?
So I put a couple Debussy pieces at the beginning, even though they're about 100 years old. Debussy, as many people know, and as I'm sure all of our three composers know, um, is still today one of the most modern and inspiring composers. Um, there was a great quote by the great pianist Claudio Arau, who said that Debussy's music is not just different from Beethoven and different from Mozart, but it sounds like the music of another planet. And I think Debussy still to this day is so inspiring as a very unusual, modern, even avant-garde sounding composer, even 100 years later. So I put two pieces at the beginning, two of his somewhat less often played pieces that are unusual, I think, and dissonant and strange and inspiring. And then after that, these three wonderful composers and wonderful friends who I've gotten to know over the last several years. I'll be able to have two pieces by each of them, and you'll be able to speak to them live.
Fabulous. Well, why don't we listen to the first piece we have here? I won't butcher the French. Bells Through the Leaves. Wonderful. Fantastic,
Thank you.
Stephen. So, let me talk to you a little bit more about Debussy and another one of my projects, 15 Minutes of Fame. So, you participated in 15 Minutes of Fame. Just a quick overall of that is it's where 15 composers write for a specific musician. In this case, it was for you. And your first 15 Minutes of Fame, you also focused on Debussy.
Yes. Well, what I can tell you is that happened to be in 2012, which was the 150th anniversary of his birth. And I was lucky enough to be in Paris. I had been invited to be at this residency in Paris for 2 months. And so I was playing a whole lot of Debussy, as you can imagine, the greatest French composer. And to play him in France was a wonderful thing. And so that's when that project started. And I got, I think, maybe 70 or 80 submissions from 70 or 80 different composers around the world. And all because the plan of the project was reimagining Debussy. So I just asked composers to write their short pieces that in some way interacted with Debussy. It didn't have to sound like Debussy, it didn't have to imitate Debussy, but it had to somehow interact with him. And so some pieces sounded a lot like Debussy in the 21st century, and others were completely dissonant and strange, and some were related to Debussy by their titles or their visual imagery. So it was a fun project, really, really fun.
And like, what's I guess what's the difference between playing works by living composers and playing something by Debussy?
Well, the best thing is you can actually talk to the composers. It's hard to talk with Beethoven and Debussy. It's hard to get a hold of them to talk and ask them about their music. So that's the greatest thing. When you work with these wonderful composers, you can talk to them about every detail of the piece. And as we know, composers write these little marks on a piece of paper, and then we try to interpret it. And when you have the real person there, you can say, "What exactly did you mean by this?" And they say, "Oh, no, 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 not that way. It should
Right.
be this way." So it's very valuable. And also, as I tell students a lot, the experience of doing that with living composers helps you understand the distance between their idea and the score. And when you do that, you start to learn more about how previous composers may have worked. So you start to understand the distance between maybe Beethoven and his music and Debussy and his music. You start to understand how to close that gap in some ways, and it's very useful. So it's tremendous to be able to work with and speak with a living composer.
Awesome. Well, why don't we listen to a little bit more of old composers, and we'll play another piece by Debussy, Movement. Great. That's awesome. So, yeah, well, thank you for a little Debussy, a rare treat for composer's voice for those who know our history. Well, let's bring on a living composer. Where is Andrew List? Hi,
Hey,
Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you, Robert.
Welcome. It's great to see you too. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in Boston. I'm a composer, obviously, of concert music, orchestra music. I had a Boston Symphony commission last year, written a lot of chamber music and songs, and a lot of music for piano. And I teach at Berklee College of Music in Boston.
And how do you come to this concert and meet Stephen, or have you known Stephen for a while, being in
I've known him
Boston?
for almost 20 years now. We are actually quite good friends. And it was through a mutual friend from St. Louis. Stephen lived in St. Louis for a time. And when these colleagues came to Boston to give a concert, that's how we met. And we've actually worked together on other projects, not only these Dendera Etudes that he plays, but he played my second piano sonata in Paris and gave the
Okay.
European premiere.
Oh wow. Um, and so tell us a little bit about these pieces that you wrote. You wrote for him, or
These were not written for him.
okay.
Uh, but these pieces, it's 12 etudes inspired by the Egyptian Zodiac from the Dendera temple. Dendera is one of the holiest places in Egypt, ancient Egypt, we're talking about, of course. And it was dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of love. And they found this incredible disc of the Egyptian zodiac. It's the most perfect intact zodiac of the ancient world and of the ancient sky. And there were 12 different Egyptian gods. Also, there were 12 Greek gods and our regular zodiac figures as well. And the disc is now in the Louvre in Paris. And
Wow.
I got very inspired about making a set of etudes inspired by Debussy and others. Um, and these are really character portraits of the different gods. I did a lot of research about ancient Egypt. I'm very inspired by ancient Egypt and have written 3 pieces now. And each one is a kind of portrait of their personality and their interconnection.
Great. Well, so this first piece, Thoth. What's the interconnection there?
So Stephen's going to play 2. Thoth is the god of wisdom and magic, a god that's connected with Osiris. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, this piece, the Dendera Etudes, is also inspired by the Goldberg variations of Bach. And there are connections of the Goldberg and certain kinds of quotations, free assimilation. If you listen to them back to back, you would hear certain things. But Thoth is a created language. So it's the opener of the piece, very dramatic and very extroverted.
And Stephen, do you have a thing to say about Thoth? I mean,
Well, it's just wonderful. It's so pianistic and fun to play. It's a little bit hard, but it's also a lot of fun.
okay. Well, let's hear it. Excellent. Great opener. And so, Angel, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Amon-Re, our next piece that we'll be listening to?
So Amon-Re was the god of the new kingdom. There was a time when they did away with all of the other gods and they only had one, and it was Amon-Re. And the piece is inspired by the concept of Amon-Re, a god that was not known at all, who becomes the main god and then dies away into obscurity. After Akhenaten came in, they did away with Amon-Re. So the piece really begins very quietly, like out of the depths, opens up into this kind of sound world, and then dies away. And by the way, the note F sharp, this piece was written in Paris, and Notre Dame bell, one of the Notre Dame bells is F sharp. And I was hearing this bell and hearing this bell. So you'll hear this repeated note, bell-like note, kind of like what Chopin did in the Raindrop Prelude, this kind of repeated D flat. Mine's an F sharp.
Oh, wow. Let's hear Amon-Re. Awesome. That's lovely. I feel like I can hear the bells from all the way from Paris.
Thank you, Stephen. So beautiful.
That's wonderful. And so one of the great things about collaborating with virtual concert halls is to be able to pull people together from all over the planet. And in the wings, I think we have Norberto Oldrini, who hails from Italy, if I'm correct. Hey, Norberto, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm doing well. It's so good to see you. No, composer's voice is fabulous. Like as reminded, it's a great way to be introduced to new composers and like you know listen to new works that you haven't heard for. But it's also great to see familiar faces and and hear the new works that are being written today. Norberto and I, we've collaborated for many years.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. uh, I met you in 2014, maybe, for more pieces, and one it is this one for 15 minutes of fame, reimagining Schubert.
Right.
It was in 2000, maybe 15.
I think
And
so. Yeah.
yes, and I also met Stephen in this way because he played this piece, this very short piece, in a very fantastic way. And so I have written an email to him and to say thank you, Stephen, for this so amazing performance. And after we also collaborated for other things. And last year, this year, also he came to Italy to perform a wonderful concert for Musica Prospettiva Festival in Italy.
Mhm.
And he played maybe the same program of the tonight. Maybe Debussy was different, but we were the same pieces, and so I could meet him in person, and he's wonderful as pianist and as person. So I'm very happy to meet him again now in this very important thing that is virtual concerts, and you, Rob, I met you with all your great concerts in all around the world with 15 minutes of fame, composers' voices. So so on.
Thank you, Norberto. And it kind of reminds me, Stephen. You were talking earlier before about like working with contemporary composers and getting this sort of insight that reflects in learning older pieces. But there's that advantage too of like the promotion and like blossoming of concert performance in general, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you perform new music, you get more concert opportunities. It's as simple as that. I tell students a lot. It's so important. You don't have to play nothing but new music. You don't have to only play new music, but you must play some new music because it's so valuable. It's so interesting. It's great music. It helps you in so many ways, and also um, what I usually say is you can't just sit in your practice room practicing Beethoven Appassionata and waiting for the phone to ring from Carnegie Hall. You'll be waiting a long time. You need to always engage with new music. And so with Norberto, his wonderful music, even the tiny piece I played 5 years ago, I could tell it was such a beautiful thing. And then we got in touch and I was able to go and play in Italy, play another wonderful piece of his. And I think there's even another one to be written yet, the Tempesta, but it's not finished, Norberto.
I will finish it.
Yes, but
I hope so.
I hope so too. And this is what, when you meet these composers and work with them and interact with them, and through the amazing world of the internet, we can do this now all the time with people from around the world. And you build these relationships, and that leads to more music and more concerts.
Right. Well, let's listen to these two pieces coming up by Norberto Oldrini, Maiden Death and Fiend.
Great.
Fabulous. And and what inspired you for these pieces, Norberto?
This was for 15 minutes of fame, Reimagining Schubert. So I took a very short cut of Death and the Maiden. I don't know the English title, La Morte e la Fanciulla, and I have decomposed. I have separate some notes from other notes, and like something like wind of the time has destroyed the structure of the piece, and we have some we can remember something, some sounds, some harmonies, but without the same structure of the original piece.
Right.
In 1 minute. So I have to stop me.
And what about Fiend?
Fiend, it was another piece that was born thanks to you, Rob, because maybe you don't know it, but it is because of collaboration with the dance company, Natalie Johnson Dance. Okay. And I have met her, Natalie Johnson, when I was selected in another your competition that was the Mad Dance in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
and 8 pieces by 8 different composers were selected for 8 different choreographers, and between them, totally random, I was paired with Natalie Johnson, that I didn't know, but she made a wonderful choreography of my piece. It was a clarinet piece, so we stayed in touch, and she asked me to make a long choreography on my music, and also asked me to write a new piece for this choreography, and I have written this Fiend. That is the original title was Sleep Talking Friend, with the R between parentheses.
Okay.
So it was Friend Fiend.
Right.
The final title was only Sleep Talking, and Fiend was the title of this piece that has a strange. It was born starting with the choreography without music. So I have a view. I have watched to the choreography, and after I have composed the music after the choreography, not the choreography after the music.
Right. Right. Great.
So it was it was before performed in this choreography, and after as a concert piece by different pianists, and the last one, but the better one, was Steven.
No.
Yeah.
So let's hear it. Fiend.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Norberto, thank you.
you.
Very dance-like. I love it.
Thank you.
And so, like I was saying before, it's great to be virtual and be able to stretch over these huge distances. I think
Yes.
now we're traveling from Italy to Sweden with Martin Skafte. Did I say that right, Martin?
Martin Skafte, but it's close enough.
Thank you.
Skafte. Thank you.
Hello,
Fabulous.
Robert.
Martin,
And hello, Stephen.
how are you? Tell us about yourself.
I'm fine, thank you. Well, I'm a composer living in Gothenburg, Sweden. And except being a composer, I teach piano to mostly adult beginners, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fun job to have.
What's your oldest adult beginner?
I think 72 so far.
It's awesome. And your
Everyone.
youngest?
That's not so young, probably just around 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a huge range.
Yes.
Does that help with your composition?
Not really. I don't
Okay.
think so, but it at least I have to all day I have to think about music and piano, so I guess it keeps me sharp in one sense at least. I have to be able to explain everything in a good way to my students, and in a way I guess I explain it to myself too while doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how did you meet Stephen or come together on this project?
That's I think it was when Stephen played, was it 15 Minutes of Fame? Was it? Can you correct me on this, Stephen? The Debussy.
It may have been that, or it may have been when I was doing all the Debussy preludes, the 24 preludes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think maybe you had somehow found out about that, and you were writing your set of 24 preludes.
Yeah.
And I got an email from you, and I think we went from there.
Yeah, I found Stephen online, and I reached out, and he responded, and from there we've collaborated a couple of times.
Excellent. And so tell us a little bit about tell us about this Prelude project.
I guess it was I wanted to learn something myself from Debussy, and just as Stephen said, it's very hard to ask him. It's a bit too late to ask him in person, so I tried communicating with his music. I sat down with the Debussy preludes and I tried to ask them the questions I tried to ask the questions to the score instead and see which answers were coming out of that process. It's just from the love of Debussy's music. I really wanted to have a fresh start composing something I really loved, working with something I really loved, to see what could come out of that.
Cool. Well, why don't we listen to one? This the first piece inspired by you, Lines and Timelines. Awesome.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen. So, can I dare say, Stephen, you're kind of a virtuoso with Debussy, as I've sort of listened to you live and virtual in our concerts and with our project with Debussy. It's and you're a little critically acclaimed as well.
Well, that's nice of you to say, and I appreciate it. I've been lucky to play Debussy, of course, since I was a kid, and also to have some good teachers and a famous teacher who was very old and was from the time just after Debussy died. He was quite old. When I studied with him, he was almost 90, and it was a connection to, he had played for Debussy's wife just a few years after Debussy died, and Debussy's wife was a very good singer and musician, and he knew Ravel and he knew all the other famous musicians in Paris in the 1920s. So the connection to the past was quite amazing. But it's nice of you to say that. And I just wanted to say about Martin's pieces, the Debussy Preludes are 24 Preludes. It's an enormous work. It's about an hour and a half long. It's about 120 pages of music. And Martin wrote his own entire set of 24 preludes, each one of which refers to a specific Debussy prelude. And Martin's work is tremendously complex and also very long. It's an enormous work of music. And it's fascinating to me because some of the pieces sound a little like Debussy. He quotes him a little bit, or there's a harmony that sounds like Debussy. Other pieces are completely dissonant. You seem to see no connection whatsoever to Debussy, and there's extended piano techniques, prepared piano, playing inside the piano. There's an enormous variety of stuff. And I have to say that I find things, the more I spend time with his music, I find little things in them that I didn't realize before. So it's fascinating.
That's nice to hear. That's the point.
Right. I was about to say that's kind of very Debussy-like, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many pianists I hear say that every time they approach a Debussy, like all of a sudden they rediscover the piece every time they come to it. So it sounds, Martin, like you're on the right track.
Well, thank you very much for that, Stephen.
And so this next piece, Finding Memory again, so how's it compare and contrast to the one we just heard?
Well, this is actually the first one I did out of all the 24. It's the one the whole process started with. I wanted to, the famous piece, the English title, I don't know, La Fille, Cheveux de Lin, the famous Debussy prelude. I wanted to create a situation where this music tried to remember itself 100 years after it was created, with all the faults and flaws of human memory as a starting point for my compositional process. So this is the one of all the 24 that sounds most like Debussy, I would say. Wouldn't you agree, Stephen? Yeah.
Maybe so. I think maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it. Finding Memory again.
you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bravo, Martin.
Thank you, Stephen. Well played. Wonderful.
Very nice.
Martin, can I ask you, I know just with 1 second, I always forget about, was there a Bernstein quote at the end of that from West Side Story, or was that just a coincidence?
That just happened. While I studied the harmonies of Debussy, I found that was a very possible harmonic progression, and I didn't think more about it. But when I came to America and when you heard it when I was there talking about it, I obviously you heard the students when I talked to them. I remember, West Side Story, and what?
Isn't it interesting? Yeah,
it's an accident.
A happy accident.
A happy accident, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we could bring everybody on board. I want to thank just everybody for participating in this Composer's Voice concert. I'm really happy just to be able to make this happen and for everyone to participate. The virtual thing is kind of new and old at the same time. I mean, it's been around, but I think it's a lot more popular these days. There's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to it, huh? The best part is to be able to just get the music of living composers like out there and available for audiences to hear. And speaking on behalf of like the audience members, I think that the sort of format where composers have like the opportunity to speak about their works and the sort of dialogue is a great advantage to the audience member. I mean, we always have program notes, or we try to have program notes for the audiences to get involved with the pieces. But in a lot of ways, they need it's another connectivity that helps them enjoy the music better. So I just want to thank you all for participating and sharing with us, just your thoughts on the pieces and your experiences and stuff.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Robert.
having us.
And Robert, I just wanted to say I was lucky to play all three of these composers' work in January in Italy at Norberto's festival. That was the last concert I had before the virus started. Okay. And I'm going to play these same wonderful pieces next month in San Francisco. And so to do it here today with you and what Virtual Concert Halls is doing, which is tremendously helpful, so helpful to us all, performers and composers, in this time that we're going through, which is a challenging time. It means so much. I can't thank you enough on behalf of all of us for that.
Yeah, and with that said, let's just have a little applause for Virtual Concert Halls for helping us put this together. Thank you so much. I want to thank Anna and Fedor and Igor and Franny for it's so funny. There's the workings behind the workings, and I cannot tell you how much it is to have a team like them, in the background, putting us all together, making us sound, better, right? I think we can all attest that. Thank you so much, Virtual Concert Halls, and they're doing this for composers and musicians all over the world. So I think we'll be seeing more of them. Meanwhile, guys, I want to thank you again for being part of Composer's Voice Concert Series, and it's lovely to hear your work. It's the best part of my job to get to listen to your pieces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Be well.
You too.
You too.